Good morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the weekly energies collectively and how to best navigate them using guidance, tarot cards and whatever may come through. And what has really come through this morning is light, and there is nothing I can do about it. I have turned off the background light, so dimmed the brightness around me, and there's this real ethereal feel to the video, very almost like a ghost-like, see-through, transparent, haunting type energy. And all the video shows is orbs left, right and centre. I have turned off my camera light. That has made no difference. I have gone back to the old camera that I used to use, that old Vision, and it's very grainy, very hard to decipher, but it's still very, very light. I've even turned the brightness of this camera down, so I've really dimmed down the high vibration of the reflection in front of me, or how I am reflected and seen, and it hasn't made a difference. There seems to be something in that this week, our ability to navigate, to sit and be seen in the light that we are, in the light that is around us, and the light that we are reflecting. And our ability to direct that light as well. So this is as good as it gets. And there's an emphasis on people will see how and what they want to see or are able to see this week in particular. Okay, so I don't know about anybody else, but in particular, the last 3 or 4 days for me have been emotionally intense. I've been journeying with the Cup cards, and I made the decision this morning to continue the journey through the minor arcanas. I'm going to go on to the Wands, and I'm going to go on to the Pentacles. When I first started the Cup card journey, well, let's go back. When I first started journeying with the Swords, on the Ace of Swords in my dream time, I received that I needed to continue onto the Cups. The Ace of Cups came to me. When I was on the Ace of Cups, the second part of the journey, whilst washing up, so whilst with my hands in a big bowl of water and water going everywhere, the Ace of Wands came to me, and the energy was very much I needed to make a decision. I needed to choose to continue this journey. It wasn't going to come to me from insight or intuition outside. It needed to come from within. And that is really the wand energy, isn't it? You know, we can have these insights, we can have this guidance, but are we going to act on the light that we are given in any situation? Or are we going to direct it in a way that is more palpable to our own vision? So that's really come up for me this week, and today I'm on the 8 of Cups, and there's a real, what's the word? I almost feel drawn to say division or separation in the air from what was, for those that are willing now to walk forward. That makes it sound really easy for those that are willing. So those that aren't, you know, what do we do? There's no compassion there. There's, well, you made your bed, you lie in it, blah. No. For those that are willing to move forward with compassion, others can then follow. And compassion really feels to be the key this morning. So just slow down slightly. And that is a very particular energy this week. When it feels as if things may be coming in too quickly or have the potential to be repeated, slow down. Have compassion for where you or someone else has actually been on this journey and where they currently are, to actually move forward. So what came to me this morning in my dreams last night with the 8 of Cups, I saw a book that I have based around the Moon Eye Key, which are rites of initiation. I couldn't say initiation then. Initiation. Handed down by the Peruvian shamans. And in this book, I opened a page this morning and landed on the Seer's Rite. There's a big difference between psychic ability, and this may cause a knee-jerk reaction. And again, if it does, look at how you are interpreting the light, the information that is being given to you, because that is the difference between psychic ability, intuitive ability and the ability of the seer, the rights of the seer. So when we receive the Moon Eye Key right of the seer, our heart is realigned with our third eye along the neural pathways in our brain. So basically we see through the heart. We see through the wisdom of the heart. We take intuition, we take psychic awareness, clairvoyance, clairaudience, all the clairs, and we see it through another sense, which is the heart. We align compassion, love and acceptance with what we are seeing. That enables us, empowers us to hold space for a vision that goes beyond our feelings, beyond how we wish things would be, because ultimately that comes from a judgment, whether we like it or not. How we wish something would be comes from our own desires and ambitions, our own upbringing, our own prejudice, our own opinions, our own judgments, many of which we are unaware of. Excuse me. When we align with the heart, that intuition no longer becomes egoic intuition, but divine intuition, light information, light language. Now, light language can come in many ways, shapes and forms, and it can be expressed in many ways, shapes and forms, because the guidance that I've received as light language is the language of love, compassion, acceptance, whether we're drawing it, writing it, sharing it, reading it, healing with it, whatever. But love language must come through the centre of love, which is the heart. That feels very poignant this week, in particular with any energies that come up. What are we actually seeing and where are we seeing it from? How are we decoding the information that we are receiving? Are we taking it through all of our energy centres? Is it stuck in our mind? Is it stuck in our solar plexus? Is it stuck in our root chakra? You know, how are we actually embodying the light? We must know this before we direct it. So this week in particular, I've been very aware of my own roles within the drama triangle, you know, the victim, the persecutor and the rescuer. And at any given time, I can be in all three. And I can be aware of that. And it's really come to light this week. And it's definitely something that I am choosing now to move forward from the best that I can. And how do we do that? How do we take the lessons that we have learned and actually move forward? We become them. We embody them. So one of the very clear insights that I received this morning through my heart, through the seer energy, was very much being humbled by the truth of we only know the lesson when we become it. We can talk about love, or we can become love. We can learn how to love or remember how to love, but ultimately we remember that we are love. We can talk about compassion or we can become compassion. We can talk about abundance or we can become abundance. And I can feel in my head a very hazy energy across the third eye. And there feels like there's a lot of upgrades coming in regards to... It's not saying that psychic awareness is on any other level, lower or higher or anything like that, but it's bringing it all together now. It's bringing psychic awareness and seer energy together now. It's one thing to see something, it's another to act on it, and that is our choice. It feels collectively that is where, and I'm going to say, we are lacking in our actions on what it is we are seeing and what it is we are holding space for, the vision. How is that being reflected in our actions this week in particular? I know we are leading up to the equinox on the 20th, the spring equinox, the return of that light, and it's no surprise my camera is like this, but I also know that we are coming up, I think it's a Virgo full moon around about the 18th or 19th. When we think of Virgo, we think of the perfectionist. We think of the shaman as well, the ability to hold that vision, but also to let go of it having to be a certain way. Why are we being a perfectionist? Why do we want things to be the way that we want them to be? Really looking at that and how we are directing that energy now. To truly stand and hold space for a higher vision, it doesn't include, or it does include our vision, but it isn't solely about our vision, about how we want things to be. Is there anything else on that? I've got real itchy nose, real itchy nose. And that may be something that comes up for us this week: a running nose, an itching nose. I'm getting the analogy of when a wound heals, it itches. And it's almost like the connection between our third eye, as it heals, as it opens, as it expands, we may get side effects such as itchy noses, running noses, sneezing, nosebleeds. Now, obviously, if you get a nosebleed and it's unusual for you, I'm not saying, oh, it's part of an awakening, don't do anything about it. As always, none of this replaces any medical advice. But in reference to what I'm speaking of now, there could be a connection, which feels very pragmatic this week. Whatever I'm receiving, is it in reference to where I am? Is it in reference to what I am thinking of or discussing or whatever? Often we can take insights and mold it, mold it to fit our picture. Let go of that this week and be really, really open to what is actually trying to come through. I'm seeing a lot of third eyes calcified, and I recommend water, filtered water, and really clearing of this energy now. Is there anything else? There's something about the third eye energy this week. All I can hear is to see is to be. So it's going back to that basic knowing of what we see and how we see things is where we're at. It's where we're at. So really taking responsibility for that by looking at our actions in response to what we are seeing. And I can hear that we are the heart of it all. We are the heart of it all. Perception really is key this week. And if we're uncertain, to go into our heart, to see with our heart this week. So it does feel as if there's some real confusing energy there for some people. Oh. It's not confusion, it's trust. It's trust. It's trusting what we feel in our heart. And it may not fit in with what is going on around us. And it's about having the strength, the courage to be connected to that space, to be open to that space, to shed. So this morning I saw a lion and a serpent in my own guidance, in my own meditation. And it was very much about shedding the trauma that has stopped us from being in our heart space this week. Okay. So I'm very aware of some insights there about my own journey, and that feels like key. Is this relevant to your journey? If so, it's your journey. It doesn't need to be shared with anyone else, unless you really feel you need help from them. But first acknowledging it's your journey. It's your journey. Okay, so the energies this week and how to best navigate them collectively. Right. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, overall. So underneath the pack we do have the Two of Cups, Two of Wands. We do have that opportunity to move forward there. Regardless of what is going on this week, that opportunity is there. It is always there. And it is in the small steps. It's in the small actions this week. They may not feel like they're big changes, but it is the small steps that make the bigger changes this week. The energy overall is the Five of Cups. So we do have a mourning there and a loss. Okay, we do have feeling into that and holding space for that. It is again that shedding of any trauma. It's very difficult when there are things we want to be a certain way and they're not. And it's almost like we go through a grief process of letting go of them, which is essential for new aspects to come in. So be compassionate with yourself this week and with others. We are all going through a divine shedding. That's what I hear, a divine shedding here, to really reconnect to our own intuition and our own visions. Okay, so what I'm feeling is, but hang on, Kirsty, you've just said that our visions aren't the same. And no, that isn't what I've said. What I'm saying here, and that's where there's a lot of confusion coming up. What was originally a joint vision for ourselves and the earth has been muddied. The waters have been muddied, and they have been muddied by our own journey here, our own ability to hold space and our own actions. So there's a real return to an original vision without all the mess, the murkiness in between. And today, on the Monday, we have our first major archetype, and I wanted to say guiding archetype, which feels poignant for the whole week. Our first guiding archetype, which is temperance. Witness. Hold space for what is occurring without muddying the water, without adding to the, I want to say fire, because temperance, even though she has a lot of cups there, she is actually a fire sign. She's Sagittarius, or he's Sagittarius. Don't add to the flame. Don't add to the fires. Witness what is going on. Witness yourself. Witness the process. Don't make it any more uncomfortable than it needs to be. Hold space. Really, really hold space for yourself this week without those knee-jerk reactions, because on the Tuesday we do have the potential of that. We do have the potential of, well, this is what I wanted and this is what I wanted. And if we can hold space throughout the whole week, in particular, all these things that everybody wanted could be part of the bigger vision, but it is about holding space and knowing why we want these things, where they've come from. Are they from our own egoic drive, or are they divinely led? We can only figure that out by witnessing what is occurring for us and what we do with that, our actions. The Five of Wands can either be conflict or people coming together to build something. The choice is ours, like the message with the wands. The choice is always ours in our actions. On the Wednesday, we have the Page of Swords, and I do feel Wednesday there is still a little bit of, my throat's getting very dry. Okay. On the Wednesday, there's still a little bit of younger mental energy coming through. And the throat is dry and it feels hoarse, and it feels as if our ability to communicate isn't being heard on the Wednesday. And that's collectively as well. Isn't being heard the way that we wish it would be heard. Communication starts with ourselves first. Pause. Listen to what it is we are feeling. What it is we need to communicate. We cannot expect others to hear us if we refuse to listen ourselves. Real emotional, mental intelligence available this week, and I can feel the most glorious warmth coming down around my head. Really standing into that. And the other thing that I really felt was the dryness in my throat, the dry humour. Okay, really lightening things up on the Wednesday. Really flowing with what thoughts might come up and laughing at them. Now, I know that sounds crazy in today's world and everything that's going on, but I watched a program yesterday called #Cancel Karen Dunbar, and I totally recommend it. It was very much about comedy and the cancel culture. There needs to be a balance. This individual is holding a sword. A sword has two sides. Yeah, it's the knife's edge between the two. It's the emotional, mental energy of Jaguar, Otorongo, the emotional, mental mind, and the ability to walk that knife's edge, having the balance of our shadow and our light. Comedy is provocative. Comedy takes things and, we listen to something and we think, should we laugh at that? Should we not laugh at that? I'm not sure how I feel about that, particularly in the last few years. Comedy is a very valuable healing tool. Lightening things up is a very valuable healing tool, because what we do is we change the energy. We are taking a higher energy and reflecting that onto a lower energy. I'm being drawn to the Five of Cups here. If this man would but look up, Yeah, if he would but look up rather than the energy. And I know that's difficult. I know that's hard. I can truly empathize from my own position as well on that with everything that is going on. But it is our actions. It is our ability to hold the light, to direct the light where it is needed, to hold space for everything that is occurring, but also to witness our own thoughts, our own mental state now. Where is it at? How connected to the light are we in reality? There's a lot of things that offend a lot of people, and I think that's totally understandable in a world that is full of trauma. So much has occurred for all of us, and it's raw and it's open and it's vulnerable, and we often react from that place. Really looking at how we can hold space for that now with compassion for ourselves rather than reflecting it onto others. It's going to be the difference for Thursday with the Ten of Wands. You know, the Ten of Wands, my elbow nearly fell off the table then. The Ten of Wands, yeah, what I get when my elbow's on the table is manners. It comes back to manners, okay? It comes back to respect. It comes back to the difference between it being too much and the end of it being too much is our choice to say, I'm not doing this. Okay, that's your belief, direction. This is my belief, my direction. And being okay with that, you know. I'm not going to say not taking things on the offensive, because that is up to the individual. That's entirely up to you. But being aware of that and the impact that that may have on you individually, and then the subsequent effect collectively. So, where does drama come from? I'm not talking about the obvious things that are going on around us, but when there is peace, when we do have those moments where the Ten of Wands is at its end, it's all done, where does that next lot of drama come from? The Four of Cups. Boredom, apathy, can't see that. The ability to not see what is being gifted to us. When we raise our vibration, we don't need to be apathetic, because we can understand what's going on, we can hold space for it, we can feel it, we can get upset by it, but we can witness that as part of our own process. We can be responsible for that, and in that we find the light in the shadow. In that we find the gift in what may be occurring. That takes huge heart expansion, that takes the ability to see through the heart. When we're not in that space, when it's our way or the highway, when we feel as if we are constantly battling things, we get used to living at this high-paced energy, fight or flight, and when that calms down, we're not used to it. When that calms down, we start to bring in more drama. So really looking at that this week. And it may not be ours, it may be other people's, it may be being offered to us to get back into the game, the drama triangle is definitely something I felt this week myself, but we can make the choice to say, right, I can see what's going on here. Yeah, I can see my own role in this as well. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. On the Saturday, it does feel, I think we have Neptune doing something in the background, because it does feel very watery this week. It does feel very ethereal this week. It does feel almost like walking through a veil this week. On the Saturday, we have the Page of Cups, and I feel that. I really feel... Okay, so what I'm hearing is, what do you feel by the Saturday? What do you actually feel? That seems to be the key. Seems to be all I want to add on the Saturday. Yes, we have the Page of Cups. Yes, we see ourselves in the bigger picture. Yes, we get to see the wonder and the awe of life, and we don't try and contain that anymore. Thank you. We don't try and contain what we feel anymore. We flow with it. But that only comes by knowing what we actually feel. It really senses to be this week to not fear our emotions anymore, to hold space for them, to be aware of them, to witness them, so that we avoid the knee-jerk reaction, so that we mentally, emotionally mature, so that they don't feel as if they're too much for us. This connection to intuitive language, because that's what emotions hold the potential to be. To see emotions for the gift that they are. And on the Sunday we have the High Priestess. A real journey of the dark and the light this week. A real journey of our shadow this week. To truly see our shadow, we go into all aspects of ourselves that we may not want to look at. That's how we truly see our shadow. And we do so with compassion and understanding and acceptance. Most of the aspects in our shadow come from things that we have felt too ashamed to share. When we really go into that shame and that guilt, the Five of Cups, that grief of who we actually are, we could get some real insights this week on how to move forward. And I'm being drawn back to the Two of Wands because that is the overall aim this week, moving forward. So in summary, we have 1, 2, 3 cup cards, real creative emotional potential there this week. Provided we can look and hold space for ourselves, provided we see emotions for the gift that they are and become aware of their impact individually and collectively. We then have 3 wand cards. Again, real creation of the spirit this week. Spiritual intuition this week. What, my whole screen just flashed then. Spiritual intuition this week and recognizing the difference. I feel many of us have become strayed from that. There's been a lot of information coming in, and it's remembering that our body is the tool that deciphers all information. Really communicating with our body this week. We have the Two of Wands, the Five of Wands and the Ten of Wands. And, it's that pivotal moment of change in regards to things being too much, in regards to carrying too much, in regards to being blinded on how to move forward. Real pivotal moment this week, if we can see our body as a reflection of the earth. And take responsibility for that. We have 1 sword card this week, and it's the Page of Swords. It's a new way of thinking here. It's a new maturity of our, again, I want to say emotional intelligence. And we have 2 guiding archetypes here. So I want to go back to the Page of Swords. It's 1 sword card. So we go straight up. We go straight up. We take our energy up to our higher self here. And I'm seeing our higher self and our younger self and our current self almost coming together. Lighten up. We lighten up. The 2 guiding archetypes this week are Temperance and the High Priestess. Very, I wanted to say feminine related, and I almost feel like I can't say that because it's rigid. I want to hold the triangle. It's rigid. No one knows the gender of Temperance. And the High Priestess, yes, she is female, but there's a lot of confusion here about rigidity of labels, rigidity of not being able to say certain things, or just go with what you're feeling. So I'm holding my hands in a triangle here, and I'm saying the masculine and the feminine. Okay, now when we talk about the feminine, she is both energies. Hold space for both energies, the light, the dark, the masculine, the feminine, beyond labels, beyond any identification this week. Really important that we go beyond all of this. So I'm going to put them to one side. I was going to ask if there's anything else with that, but what I'm going to do I wanted to keep the energy very simple this week, and yet I was drawn to get White Eagle Medicine Wheel deck and the Mystical Shaman Oracle out. And I just thought, well, is that simple energy? Well, it is for me. It's shamanic energy. It may not come across as simple for everybody else. The energy this week may be very elusive, unobtainable, very walking the realms type energy. So have compassion for that. Have compassion and ground yourself with that compassion. So how do we do that? I feel excitement in my root chakra. I really do, like really lighten up our place here. And we have the provider and the spirit warrior. Now I just want to show you this card. Yeah, you can't really see that. I want to go back to the fact that we can only see based on the amount of light that there actually is, our perspective. So I remember seeing a while ago a experiment on social media about whether someone saw a dress blue or black. Might have been shoes, I can't remember. And it all came down to our ability to see the light changed the very colour of what it was we were seeing. You know, everything comes down to our ability to see the light, to how many light receptors we have within our body. So with regards to the spiritual warrior, take some time. One of the things that was mentioned with the seer's rite today was to take some time and imagine every cell in your body filling with light. Feed from the sun, you know, whatever it is you need to do, but bring that light into your body, into every cell, every tissue, every membrane, every bone, every part of your being. That feels very relevant to the spirit warrior. And then we have the provider, which is sweetgrass. Now, sweetgrass is absolutely beautiful to bring in new energy. I must buy some today. Whenever I cleanse the home or energies, it's great to cleanse the energy, but look this week, when we clear energy, what are we bringing back in? Because there's an empty space there then. What energy are we bringing back in? Now, sweetgrass is it's very sweet, but it brings in energy of abundance and fruition and plentiness. So really seeing cleansing as a multifaceted approach this week, clearing the energy. But the best way to clear the energy is to ground in a new energy in our body. So let's see what White Eagle says about these two cards. I have no idea where they will be, so they won't be there. Dreamweaver. Now, it looks like they'll be here. Medicine wheel. And I can feel almost an awkwardness with the silence. And I want to say, talk amongst yourselves, being okay with the silence this week. Yeah, my ears are going very, almost like I'm underwater. Hold space for the silence. The reason I couldn't find Spirit Warrior is because it's under the grandfather energy. It's under the very elder masculine. So, this shield bearing a thunderbird, of course, I hadn't even seen that. The thunderbird energy is the Heyoka, it's the sacred cloud. So again, going back to that lightening up of energy. Is made of rawhide stretched over a wooden hoop while wet. Da 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 da. Grandfather Spirit Warrior's message. By calling me, you are calling for protection, a shield. You may need to learn about protection, either in your physical life or from negative energies. This shield also brings you courage. It's not always easy to stand up for the truth or for what is right, while those around you are compromising or remaining silent for fear of authority or what others may think. If the shield comes reversed, which it didn't, okay, so my friend, I give you this shield. It assures you that you have all the inner strength and courage you need. And if you have not found your helper, return to the animals and call for a spirit protector. Farewell. Going back this week to standing in your own truth, to coming from the heart, to witnessing what is occurring with everybody else and not actually stepping into that energy, protecting yourself. Now, protection for me is a real grey area, because when we believe we need to protect ourselves, then we hold a judgment on that energy. But the best way to protect ourselves is to stand in our own energy, to stand in our own light, to become our own shield. Oh, I've just noticed that provider is right next to that card. So when you find your own energy, when you find your own light, you then become the provider. So sweetgrass, yes, grown in hidden places where there is sufficient moisture. Obviously it's become rare. Sweetgrass is braided, symbolising the weaving together of all that is good, gentle and pure in life. And when it burns, it gives off a wonderful sweet smelling smoke. Okay, the teaching I have for you is to have gratitude and respect for all life and all that you are given. It may not feel like a gift. What we're going through may not feel like a gift, but it is up to us to find the light in any situation. Take nothing for granted. Take only what you need. That feels very poignant, and I can really relate to that this week in regards to the drama triangle, taking on responsibilities that I believed were mine, which actually were not, and that came from a place of judgment. People are entitled to their own views and their own judgments. Yeah, and that can put us often in the rescuer position. We want to take that away for people. We don't want people to go through that, but that's not empowering at all. It's very disempowering. It is up to us to fulfill our own needs and support others to do the same. That's where true empowerment lies. And that comes from people having their own opinions on life. Providers must ensure that everyone is fed before eating themselves. What kind of provider are you? The provider must determine the need, spiritual, mental, emotional or physical. Nurture, love, happiness and security. Such are the needs of all. How do you care for yourself? Looking at that, we can talk about spiritual protection, with the spirit warrior. But what food are we putting into our body? What thoughts are we putting into our body? What energies are we putting into our body? How do we care for ourselves? Take this purifying protective sweetgrass. It is healing medicine and provides nests for small creatures and food for animals. Its sweet fragrance fills the air, bringing you a time of gentleness, going back to that compassion, like sitting in a meadow at peace with nature and the world. Too often we ignore the gift of life by fritting it away on pointless activities. Life is short, but it can be sweet if we walk a path of beauty, harmony and gratitude. Something that came up this week very much so was the small things. Again, like it did in this reading at the beginning, the small things. Take time for the small things, because they become the provider of the very, very big things in life, and being aware of that. Especially with the Virgo full moon, she says trying to get cards into a box just perfectly. I have a Virgo moon. So with the Virgo full moon, we do have that yearning for everything to be perfect. We don't want the small things. We see them as failures. We see them as things that didn't work out. But it's the small things that help us perfect ourselves. And that must come with compassion and acceptance of where we are at every stage. So yes, raising our energy, but holding space for the times when we can't as part of the learning process. So with that in mind, I'm going to pull one more card from the Mystical Shaman Oracle deck. Okay. And this is overall, the energy overall. I'm just being very drawn to the phrase that's on the box, on the book. Before there was time, before there was language, there were the sacred symbols. So why does that feel relevant? The sun. Okay, so at the bottom of the pack we have the sun. We have the ultimate provider, the giver of life, the light. Okay, and then underneath we have the lightning, which is Heyoka, Heyoka type energy here. Excuse me, let's just sit with that. The thunder beings come from the west, and they come from the space of Otoronga, and they come from the space of endings and death and shadow and emotional intelligence, the emotional mind, the ability to walk between both of those and hold space like temperance, to witness, to observe. Now, when our jaguar, when our west, when our ego is in fight or flight energy, you have a caged animal. So really this week, connecting to our wild, connecting to our emotions, pausing, breathing, being with them for the wonderful messengers that they are, for the life-giving property that they offer. Fight or flight is survival. Over the last few years, understandably, we constantly feel like we're in that survival space, and that can come from trauma and cause trauma. So really, really looking at why we feel this fight or flight energy. Yes, why do we feel unsafe? Why do we feel as if the universe doesn't provide when it does for everything? If we take a really good look at it, why do we feel disconnected from that provision this week? Okay, so one card. I just hear one card to rule them all. Okay. One card. The child and the sorcerer. So the child energy here, I did hear one card to rule them all, and I thought of the Lord of the Rings, and I thought about putting the ring on and my precious, and it's mine. I also felt very, you know, when the ring is put on in Lord of the Rings, he goes invisible. Yeah, not being seen in our own light this week. And I can really feel that in my chest in regards to our inner child. Almost like a need to protect our inner child. And that has almost come where a lot of the fight or flight is coming from, our inner childhood fears this week. I'm really looking at them, really looking at not being seen, or not wanting to be seen for the innocent childlike light that we are, this precious light. And underneath we have the sorcerer. So there's a lot of magic in that, a lot of magic in our shadow, a lot of light within there if we are, I was going to say brave enough, but it's not, it's open enough. So I'm being very drawn to the numbers on the card, and the child is number 7. Now 7 is endurance, also with the potential of moving forward and growth. And the sorcerer is 48, which is the emperor and strength, but added together would be 12, which is the empress and the hanged man. So really seeing things from all angles this week, from a space of nurture and compassion, to stand in our own truth, to connect to our divine, and to help that inner wild energy move us forward. So let's see what is said about these cards. Okay, so we have number 7. These ones are labelled a bit easier to find. Okay. Which is interesting because I spent the beginning part of this reading talking about labels and identities, and that's the other thing that I felt with my precious, holding on to our identity, our ego, because it makes us easier to be seen and to be found and to be recognised for the light that we are. But it's down to us to go beyond that, because at any given time we are more than what we realise. Labels are great, but they can actually inhibit our growth. Okay, so the essence, the child knows the way to joy and happiness, remembering that, yeah, remembering the joy and happiness of just being who we are in each moment. The child offers the return of a second innocence, a time born of wisdom and not of naivety. Now there's a real difference, and I do see a lot of separation in regards to that. You know, people claiming that other people are being separate from what's going on and and that can cause a lot of guilt or shame or judgment on the people that are actually holding the light in their own ways. Do what works for you. You're not here to be like everybody else. None of us are. Do what works for you. Hold the light that works for you, regardless what anyone else says about how you do it, okay? But really being aware of how you hold the light and where that comes from. A time born of wisdom and not naivety. This card allows you to correct your course and offers you a second chance. It brings you the possibility of redemption and entering heaven while on earth. So Pachacuti energy, which is that third eye, crown energy coming down now in everything that we do. The child is here to release you from the habit of being yourself and to help you acquire a beginner's mind. So what would you be without all of these identities? So that you can see life as it is for the first time. If we saw relationships without the trauma of previous relationships, if we saw situations without the experience of having been there before, how would that change how we approach things? If we truly want a new beginning in certain things, then it's up to us to make the choice to see it new. Remaining open to learning and discovery. Who is your spouse or partner today? Can you see them with fresh eyes? Who is looking back at you in the mirror this morning? Become a mystery unto yourself and reconnect with a sense of childlike wonder. It's very powerful, and it's very powerful in regards to healing as well, and abundance, and our whole view on life and ourselves and each other. So 48, just around 46 minutes. The Sorcerer. This is the source of dark power. The Sorcerer represents the destructive aspect of the human psyche and self-centered behaviour that harms others. It symbolises the unconscious beliefs and ideas that foster separation, conflict and scarcity. Very interesting energies to have together. So we have the light and the dark together. When the Sorcerer enters your circle, you're being called to look at how your beliefs around scarcity and self-centered fear manifest in your world. Let's go back and be really responsible with our views and how we act on them and the impact that we're having around us. Where does that come from? It's time to really look at our shadow now. Examine the destructive part of your psyche that misuses power or harbours feelings of resentment, vengeance, lust, greed, bigotry or hatred. Perhaps you've harmed someone because of these dark tendencies. If so, all is not lost. You've only forgotten that all beings are interconnected and the universe is abundant. The Sorcerer arrives to challenge you to change your thinking. You're giving a second chance, so both cards suggest a second chance here. Correct your course and practice not blaming others for the darkness that lives inside of you. Make peace with it and choose another way. There's going to be a lot coming up about shadow work in the next few weeks, which is perfect timing because it aligns with the Virgo moon, which is the shaman, the hermit, the light and the darkness. But we also have perfection there, which we must be aware of. Shadow work is a personal thing, and for me personally, all healing comes from acceptance and compassion and love, because all wisdom comes from the heart, just like the seer's information at the beginning of this reading. And if we are unable to see ourselves with that light, how are we going to see anyone else? If we are unable to react from that light, how is anything going to change? One of the biggest shadows of the universe is to believe that we have no control on the outcome. If we actually addressed that and took responsibility, how would that change everything? It's time. Take care. Have a wonderful week.